Have you ever felt invisible, as if the world had already decided you were worth nothing? What if one simple question from a stranger could completely change the way you saw yourself and the life you were meant to live? This is the story of Ryan, a homeless young man who thought he had nothing to give. One morning outside a coffee shop, everything changed. Stay until the end, because the lesson he discovered could change the way you see your own worth. Ryan lived on the streets of a busy American city. Every morning, crowds rushed into a corner coffee shop carrying laptops and briefcases, ordering their drinks with ease. Ryan sat outside in the same spot with a paper cup in his hands. His clothes were worn and his eyes were hollow. To survive, he asked strangers for spare change. Sometimes they tossed in a coin without looking. Most of the time, they ignored him completely. He often thought to himself, "I am just taking up space in this world. Maybe I really have nothing to offer." One morning, as the smell of fresh coffee drifted out of the shop, Ryan noticed a man in a crisp suit. The man's shoes shined and his posture radiated confidence. Ryan thought, "This man must be wealthy. Maybe he will give me something." He stretched out his cup. Instead of dropping in money, the man paused, looked him directly in the eye, and asked, "Do you always just take from others? Tell me, have you ever given anything to anyone?" Ryan froze. His throat went dry. "Sir," he whispered, "I am homeless. I have nothing to give." The man nodded slowly and said, "If you believe you have nothing to give, then you also have no right to ask for anything. Life is about exchange. When you give, even something small, people will give back." With that, he walked away, leaving Ryan stunned. That night, Ryan lay shivering under a thin blanket, replaying the words again and again. "If you believe you have nothing to give." He whispered into the dark, "But what do I have? What can I possibly offer anyone?" For days he sat outside the shop, too ashamed to ask for change. Doubt consumed him. He almost gave up. Yet deep inside, a small flicker of hope remained. Perhaps there was something he could give. On the third morning, as Ryan sat lost in thought, he saw a woman juggling her coffee and her briefcase. The cup tilted, spilling onto her coat. Without thinking, Ryan grabbed napkins from a nearby table and rushed to help. "Here, let me," he said gently. The woman looked startled, then smiled. "Thank you," she said, dropping $1 in his cup. Ryan stood frozen, napkins still in his hand. A thought sparked. She gave because I helped. She gave because I offered something first. From that day, Ryan tried something new. When someone dropped a coin, he did not just mutter thanks. He looked them in the eye, smiled, and offered something in return. He held open doors, carried bags, and greeted people warmly. To his surprise, people responded. Some smiled back, some stopped to chat, and some gave more than he ever expected. Weeks passed and Ryan kept trying. He tidied the sidewalk, helped customers, and treated everyone with kindness. Slowly, people began to notice. He was no longer just a beggar. He was becoming part of the shop's mornings, but not everyone approved. One customer complained to the owner that Ryan was a nuisance. Another day, a group of teenagers mocked him and kicked over his cup, scattering his coins. Ryan sat in the rain that night, his heart breaking. "Maybe they are right," he whispered. "Maybe I will never be more than this." For a moment, he thought about leaving that corner forever, but he remembered the businessman's words. "When you give, people will give back." He clenched his fists and said, "No, I will keep giving." One morning, the coffee shop owner came outside. He had been watching Ryan for weeks. "You are not like the others," he said. "You have been helping my customers. You give before you ask. How about you give your effort inside my shop? I need someone to wipe tables and greet people." Ryan's heart leapt. It was not glamorous, but it was a chance. He started the next day. The work was hard. He dropped cups, fumbled orders, and even burned his hand once. Humiliated, he thought of quitting. But each time, he remembered his promise to himself. Keep giving. So he gave more effort. He smiled at every customer, wiped every table until it shone, and treated every order as important. Slowly, things changed. Customers noticed. They started asking for him by name. The owner promoted him from cleaner to cashier, then to shift manager. 2 years later, Ryan had saved enough to rent a small apartment and buy a used coffee cart. He placed it on a busy corner, serving drinks with the same warm smile that once earned him coins. One crisp morning, as Ryan served lattes from his cart, a familiar figure approached. The man in the sharp suit, the businessman. Ryan froze, then smiled. "Do you remember me?" The man studied him, then his eyes widened. "Wait, you are the one outside the shop, the one I told to give before you receive." Ryan laughed. "That was me. But today, I am not just surviving. I own this cart, and I plan to open a shop of my own." The businessman smiled, extended his hand, and said, "You understood the lesson. You are no longer a beggar. You are a businessman." They shook hands, not as a rich man and a homeless man, but as equals. Ryan's story is not about coffee. It is about the truth that everyone, no matter how broken or overlooked, has something to give. It might be small, a smile, a kind word, or an act of service, but it has power. Life is not built on taking. It is built on exchange. When you give first, you open the door to receiving far more than you imagined. So what about you? Do you believe you have nothing to give, or will you choose to see the gifts already in your hands? Remember Ryan's story. Change begins not when you ask for more, but when you give more. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to this channel, share it with someone who needs hope today, and let us remind the world that everyone has something to give, and everyone can change their life.